Hey, what's up, everybody? I wanted to put together this commentary for plus 13 Grim Batol I did. So this is one of the cleaner runs that I've had in Grim Batol, and we almost two chested this. So starting off here, pretty standard pull. Gathering these four down by the wall, and then you can see that I'm positioned to drag into a LOS there. And we're going to Bloodlust as soon as the rest of these mobs come in. A mistake I made here early on as a tank was not positioning my camera accurately. It was much against the wall. You can see we got a caster. I got hit right there by the dragon AoE. I did not LOS in time. But yeah, we got this caster over here, so I'd go and kick it to try and help gather in. The thing about this pull is it's not super heavy damage on the tank. If you do get hit, it's most likely just because you didn't LOS the wind. Other than that, there's not a lot of damage on the tank. You just want to make sure that you're kicking the mass tremors. And yeah, if you kick the mass tremors and your group is LOSing, you're probably going to be fine on this pull. Other than that, you're just dodging the puddles on the ground. So I'm just finishing up this pull, checking where the patrol is, and I go in right away because I don't want the guy to start patrolling back and cause weird positioning on this next pull. So you always want to focus the Twilight Overseer here because they get a stacking buff, a stacking damage buff onto you. As you can see on my screen right here, this is a stacking buff, so the longer that the Twilight Overseer lives, the more damage he's going to do to you. So now I'm gathering this pull. You want to always grab those two guys on the walkway so that you can do a pull of 6 here. It just speeds up the dragon bombing run a little bit. You don't want to have to bomb those two guys. It's very ineffective. So the thing about this pull is there's going to be 3 casters and they all cast Mass Tremor at some point. So in super high keys, you're probably going to want to assign kicks here because you don't want anything to go off. Something going off on that pull is going to be a wipe on a high key. So now we're doing the bombing run. We got super good luck that things lined up okay for us right there in the nook, so we dropped a lot of bombs there. Something that's also really important on this that I noticed that some pugs do not focus is these 2 big packs, the one right before boss here and the one on the bridge. You want to make sure those are as dead as possible. There's a lot of hard-hitting attacks on the tank there, so definitely always kill those off, as well as this mob in the nook and the patrol. The only mobs you want left are the mobs close to the bridge. So as you can see, I typed that was a good bombing run because we killed basically almost everything except these mobs here. So I'm gathering this. This is also a dangerous pull because there's 3 casters. You're going to want 4 casters. So there's a lot of stops and kicks required here, and for that reason I usually try and make sure this pull is almost done before I step on the dragon. My route includes stepping on this dragon here. I know some routes don't. I like it. It's efficient for time. So yeah, you can see I let those casters die off before I pull this. So now there's just the Twilight Overseer and the Destroyer. So we're gonna sit here and kill this Destroyer so that my DPS can LOS around the side of the wall. You might have to move this dragon if the puddles get a little bit too bad. You can pull him to the bridge and your DPS can LOS off of the bridge as well. So you can see I'm doing that right here. They can always stand next to those pillars on the bridge to LOS as well. So as you can see, this 5-pack died. That's really good, and there's only just a little bit of health left on these guys. So I'm pretty much just going to go straight into the boss here. So I'm going to try and talk through some of my tank thinking on this boss. On a 13, it's not too bad. I know on a 14 and a 15, it really starts hurting. The commanding roar AoE that the boss does, it's really going to start hurting on high keys. I think if you're like below 65% health, you're going to get one shot. So if you see your health below 65% and you're not standing in like an AMZ, well, AMZ doesn't work. If you're not standing in a barrier or Zephyr, or you don't have an external on you and you're below 65% health, you're probably going to want to pop a defensive. You're going to get one shot. Might even be higher than that on large keys. In terms of the tank buster, he does like a triple swipe at you and he puts 3 bleed stacks on you. That's also really going to hurt on high keys, and if you see that bleed stack ticking away at you and dropping your health too low before the commanding roar, you're going to want to also press a defensive. So as you see here, he's doing the tank buster. I get 3 stacks as bleed. I actually just stone form it off right there because I saw the commanding roar was coming up and I didn't want to be ticking too low. Probably didn't need to do that right there, but we're pretty healthy on this fight. I wasn't having too much of an issue with it, so I figured let me just get stone form on CD and remove this bleed. You can also have a Evoker use Cauterizing Flame on you to remove that bleed if you have one in your group. But yeah, most tanks are going to want to press a defensive every time they get a tank hit. Sometimes you're going to have downtime where you don't have defensive up. That's when you could ask for an external on this fight, is if a tank hits coming up and you don't have a defensive. Because taking that bleed natural it's going to put your health pretty low on top of having a stacking bleed, and that's when you're going to end up dying from this roar that just went off. So we finish up this fight. Now we're starting to get into a little bit of the harder part of the dungeon. The second area, a lot of groups deplete. I've depleted this area many times when attempting 14s. So you're probably going to want to assign kicks if you can, if you're in Discord in a coordinated group. Any of these casts going off is bad. The Channeled Mind is terrible, and then those Shadow Flame bolts do really hurt on high keys. You mix those in with this big AoE that this guy just did, and it's easy for someone to get one shot. So yeah, you're going to want to be kicking and stopping and using defensives as a DPS and a healer. As a tank, you're going to want to be doing a defensive on the tank hit, which is right here, Lava Fist. As a Prot warrior, I can spell reflect every one of those, so it's not a big deal, but if you're playing another tank, you're going to want to press a defensive on that tank buster. So this is basically the same pull again, just kicks and stops, and pressing spell reflect on that tank buster, which my spell reflect wasn't quite up yet, so I popped a last stand, which is okay too. If you have if you mistime your spell reflect, you know, maybe once, it's okay to use a defensive, but you really want to try and make sure that you have spell reflect up for every one of those lava fists. So I just reflected that one. So I'm getting ready to go into this next 3-pack. The reason I'm sitting here waiting is because I'm waiting for my spell reflect to come up again. Because these flame renders, they also do Shadow Flame Slash right there, which you can see I have spell reflected. There's obviously 2 of them, so you can only spell reflect one of them. But still, you're going to want to make sure that you can reflect that first one going off at least. Because if your group has good DPS, you're probably only going to get a few of them in the pull. So you want to make sure you go into this pull with spell reflect up, and then you can press defensives on the other ones. So there's not much to say here. Same pull as the other 4 packs. Making sure we stay off to the edge here because the boss is going to start patrolling back over. So I just want to pause it to talk about something quick here. So if you're doing a route similar to mine, you want to be looking at your group's CDs here. So, you know, I have some defensives and some offensives here. These are obviously stops and these are externals and party defensives, but I can see here that like my shaman has got ascendance about to come up. The mage has got their 2-minute CD here, icy veins. I can see that, you know, the rogue's damage is pretty flat, especially outlaw, but he's got adrenaline rush coming up. So I know that pretty soon here after this pull, my group's going to have all their CDs. We also have lust available, which is this. So I know that we have CDs, we have bloodlust. So if you are in this situation, which you definitely need to be aware of as a tank, you can pull a 3-pack into boss with lust running, which is what I do after this pull. So we'll take a look at this. So the boss is going to patrol by, and I probably could have done a better job stacking everything because I think I waited for the boss to frontal before I pulled that 3-pack, and maybe lust would have almost been up by then. So that's a mistake on my part. So yeah, we go into boss. My DPS has popped their 2-minute and 1-minute CDs. Lust is still running at this point. We've got 18 seconds left in Lust, so maybe it's not so bad that I waited a little bit. So this is when it gets difficult, so I just want to note something here because this is probably one of the harder pulls if you pull this 3-pack into boss. You're going to be kicking the Earth Caller, so I would definitely have a DPS or let your DPS kick that because you need to be focusing on spell reflecting the flame renders slash and pressing defensives on the other slashes. So this is going to be a time where you could definitely go dry defensively because you're spell reflecting one of them, you're pressing a defensive on the other. If that happens 2 times, now you've used 2 defensives. So what happens when this boss casts Molten Flurry, which it's coming up here in 5 seconds? If you're in a coordinated group, you'd probably ask for an external or pop a party defensive. So we'll see what happens here. So boss is about to cast Molten Flurry, and this priest is very aware. You know, maybe he saw that I was dry defensively, which as you can see down here, I don't have last stand, I don't have wall. He put barrier down. So this priest is very aware, and this is what we needed in this situation. So yeah, if you're going to do this pull, pulling the 3-pack on the boss, you want to make sure you do it while Lust is running, which we still had 20 seconds left in Lust when I pulled that, so that was fine. And you're going to want to be pretty fresh defensively as well. If for some reason you don't have many defensives as a tank going in that pull, I would probably just do that 3-pack separate and then pull the boss. Because if you go into this boss with 1 defensive only and your group doesn't have CDs and you try and pull that 3-pack in, it's just going to live too long and you're going to die. So I intervened one of our DPS there, put a little shield on him. If you are playing Prot Warrior, you're going to get used to intervening on CD almost in high keys whenever the party's about to take a lot of damage. You can always just intervene your weakest player, which in this case I just intervene the shaman almost every time because they're the squishiest compared to the mage and rogue. And with the current hero talents playing Mountain Thane, the Intervene puts a small absorb shield on players, which makes it more useful because you're not just intercepting attacks, you're also giving them a tiny shield. So we're going to finish off this boss. Another thing to note here as we're making this far walk is the next pull we're about to do is typically a 5 or 6 pack depending on the patrol. I tend to like to pull the patrol in after instead of at the beginning. It just makes the pull a lot easier. But you're also going to want to make sure you're pretty fresh defensively here. I'm going in pretty good. I have Last Stand, I have Wall, Rallying Cry, so everything's up. However, I still would suggest waiting for this patrol to pad away before you do this pull, because the Lava Bender is going to patrol back and you can just pull it in after. Chances are the pull is still going to be going, so I tag in those 2 mobs to the left to gather everything. I'm going to be reflecting this slash from the Flame Render. And again, there's 3 casters here. You're going to want to make sure you get your kicks and your stops. And I'm going to be looking here soon to see if the patrol is coming back. And I'm going to tag it in once it's close enough. So that's how I would suggest doing this pull, because this Lava Bender, obviously, once it gets below 50% health, is going to be doing a ton of group damage. So it's kind of nice if the ads are killed off by the time it gets to 50% health, which in our case it will be. So this is how I would suggest doing this pull. See, now everything's dead as it gets below 50, and we're going to be able to focus this down a lot easier. So you can just see this thing's just melting. I mean, it only gets like 4 or 5 ticks off on our group, which is pretty good. So now I'm grabbing those 2 so that I can turn this into a more efficient pull. Definitely want to, in this area after second boss, you want to make sure that you're not pulling too small. The timer in this dungeon doesn't really allow for it, so you kind of always want to be pulling at least 5 mobs together. You don't want to be doing like a pull of 3 or anything like that in this part of the dungeon. So this is probably the easiest pull on this side of the dungeon. This is just a bunch of casters, and the Enforcer guy doesn't really do anything unless he lives too long, but that should be your priority target in this pull. So I'm going to go into this pull and tag the Lava Bender on the bridge. Again, you want to make this pull more efficient. I'm going to be reflecting that slash from the Flame Render. And now it's just a matter of getting your kicks and stops and dodging the frontal. And again, if things work out here, these ads are going to be mostly dead by the time this Lava Bender gets to 50% again, which is great for the cognitive load of your group and finishing off this pull effectively. So I think I'm going to pop Rallying Cry. Or do I not press it? Yeah, I press it here. So help out the healer a little bit, finishing off this pull. Even though it doesn't look like we need it, I just know that I probably want it up for third boss, so I figured let's get it on CD now, so it's up for third boss. So I only do this 3-pack here. If the patrol, there's a 2-pack patrol that goes up and down here. If you see it close by, I would tag it in so you can do this as a 5-pack, but it's not worth running all the way up and grabbing it. Either pull it if it's here or tag it in when it comes back. So I tag it in here. And again, this is going to really work out for us because these ads are going to be kind of dying as this Lava Bender hits 50%, which is just always a great place to be. If the Lava Bender hits 50% and these ads are still super healthy, it's going to be a lot of group damage on top of the pulse. I have seen patrol timing where this 2-pack kind of lines up with the 4-pack in the Nook. If that's the case, I would just do this 3-pack that was here and then run over to the Nook and pull these 2 guys in with the 4-pack in that Nook. And then you can turn it into a 6-pack pull, which is also efficient. So we're going to be going in here into this 4-pack. This is a really easy pull, just kicks. Now again, to be efficient with time, and because a 4-pack is kind of a smaller pull, once these are getting pretty low, I tag in this 4-pack and LOS it around the corner here, make sure that they run all the way to me, just so we can get some bigger damage and some more mobs in here. You're going to want to be spell reflecting the slashes whenever you can and pressing defensives if you don't have spell reflect up. As a tank, you're probably only going to die here from the Shadow Flame slashes. As long as everyone's kicking and stopping the other things going through, you just need to pay attention to those Shadow Flame slashes. I've also seen some teams Bloodlust this pull. If they want a Bloodlust last boss. However, if you just chain it like we did, you probably don't need to do that. So we're skipping these lava benders, which I would recommend. It's just a ton of group damage, and they're kind of slow and inefficient to do. So we're just gonna get this boss going. I will mention one thing just to help out other Prot warriors from not being in pain like I was. Do not fear this ad or use an incapacitate on it. It can switch targets. Most likely it will switch targets, and if it ends up switching to someone that's attacking it at the moment, you're going to wipe the group because, you know, obviously if this ad gets to anyone in the group, you're all going to die. So you can use stops and stuns, but do not fear or incap that ad. I made that mistake once. So I'm pulling boss and I'm going into the Nook here. I'd basically say you just want to do this every single time you pull this boss. There's no reason to not do this. They haven't patched it. Doesn't look like they're going to patch it. And standing in this Nook as a tank is going to make sure that your party gets... both of those ads are going to spawn kind of on top of each other, so they can kind of AoE the ads and the boss down at the same time, and it's just going to make everything a lot easier. If you don't stand in this Nook, then those ads spawn spread out, and your party really has to focus and spend a lot of time chasing them down and DPSing them, as opposed to them just spawning right on the boss. So if you're going to use Rallying Cry in this fight for your party, I would use it when the AoE goes out. The Twilight buff it here. You can see it chunks the party quite a bit on high keys. Rally would probably be helpful there. Other than that, I'm pretty much just cycling defensives when this boss does his frontal. So there is some tornadoes that are going to hit you in this Nook, as you can see. You can probably see some of them passing on the floor in front of me here. There's no way to avoid that. However, these tornadoes don't do a whole lot to the tank. But this definitely does get dicey on higher keys. The healer may need to external you if there's a lot of tornadoes under you in this Nook, and your health is dropping low. But yeah, as you can see, a frontal's coming up here. I choose not to press anything, but it does chunk me for 50 to 60% of my health. So if your health is low and that frontal's coming up, you're going to want to press the defensive. Otherwise, you're going to die. So I pressed the defensive here because my health was at 50% and I saw that frontal coming up. So now we're going to go into this next 6-pack. This is also probably one of the tougher pulls in this area because there's 4 casters and a flame render, so I'm going to spell reflect this slash. Don't be afraid to use a defensive on this pull if you have one up either. So I'm focusing the flame render just because I don't want another shadow flame slash to go off, because I wasn't sure if my spell reflect was going to be up. Now we're going to hug the wall and skip this dragon. At this point, I'm looking at timer and I'm saying, you know, originally I thought we might be able to 2-chest this. We were moving really fast. This is a clean run. We only have one death up to this point. And I think the death was on first pull as well. I think someone died to AoE. It was either that or the second area trash. Maybe one of those AoEs on the second area trash went off. But either way, this is a super clean run. You always want to bring these hatchlings into the corruptor, by the way. So when you turn that corner up there after skipping the dragon, you just want to come right down here into this pull. It's a nice big pull. Your DPS can send their CDs on this first one, and most likely their CDs will be back up for the double corruptor at the end. Unfortunately, our priest went down here. I think he had really high stacks on the corruptor there. You can intervene your party on this as well. If you see them getting targeted by the corruptor, you can intervene them and it might help out a little bit. The shield, it is a small shield, but you never know when it's going to be just enough to save your team, so I would definitely intervene on CD on these mobs. But yeah, unfortunately we got a death there. Had to wait a little bit for the priest, but I think either way we were going to miss the 2-chest here. You can see there's just no way we have enough time, but this is definitely probably my cleanest GB run. After I did this, I felt very confident that I could time a 14, so hopefully that's in the near future, as I have tried a few 14s and they've went sideways. But dungeons like GB and Stone Vault, maybe even City of Threads to some extent, they take a lot of practice, and don't feel bad if you deplete some of them. It's very rare that you're going to walk into one of these on a high key and one-shot it. So yeah, as you hear me talking through these pulls, you're going to understand and get more comfortable of where you need to use defensives, how to group these pulls up. It's going to start feeling more natural to you. So this is a tough pull. There's 2 corruptors going off. So, again, intervene on cooldown. Don't be afraid to tell your team to use a party defensive here, like barrier or something like that, because you're going to get very close to wiping on high keys if you don't have shadow melds, invisibilities, feints that you can negate these casts. So I intervene the shaman there a little bit. He gets a little shield. Looks like it actually helped out soak maybe one of those, so definitely worth. So yeah, we're a minute and a half under a 2-chest timer. Not enough to get 2 chests, but pulling this boss, this is a very fast time, so I was really happy with this run. Things to note on this boss as a tank, you basically just want to focus on positioning. Is basically the name of the game for this fight. So you always want to backpedal to where you see the circle going to, and you want to try and be proactive about it. So just to talk about what happened here, so I forgot to press spell reflect as I went into that tentacle like an idiot. That wasn't like a mistake where I accidentally walked into the tentacle. I meant to walk into the tentacle to soak it with spell reflect, but forgot to press spell reflect. So I ended up getting grabbed here, which this could have been catastrophic on a tight key. So thankfully it wasn't. But yeah, you can soak these tentacles with spell reflect, which I always do. I just forgot to press it here for some reason. But as a Prot warrior, you can make one of these tentacles disappear, which I would recommend doing in this small circle. It just makes it easier for your team to spread out. But don't forget to press spell reflect before you walk into a tentacle like I did. So you're going to want to press a tank defensive on this tank buster here, this crush. And then it's just gathering the ads. So make sure you get aggro on the ads as a tank. You can use stuns to help keep them grouped, and that AoE as a tank you don't really have to worry about. It doesn't really do anything to you. Your DPS and healer are probably pressing defensives on that AoE, but as a tank you don't really have to worry about it. So you can see here I'm trying to be proactive and move to where the circle's going. You don't want to wait till last second because it does move fast at the end, and you're probably not going to outrun it if you wait too long. So always start moving early as a tank on that circle once it starts collapsing. So yeah, the name of the game for this fight is just positioning correctly as a tank, making sure you're moving nice and early when that circle starts collapsing, and then just pressing a tank buster on the tank hit. Other than that, the only other thing would be spell reflecting a tentacle to soak one of them for your team to make it go away. And yeah, that's it for this fight. I always say this fight's actually fairly easy as a tank, or at least a Prot Warrior tank. I'm not sure about the other ones, but it feels easy and straightforward. I know that DPS and healers hate this fight a little bit, but I actually like this fight as a tank. So as you can see, I'm going to soak this tentacle with spell reflect, and it disappeared. So yeah, his boss is in execute range. We're just going to finish it off here, and you can see we have, we're going to finish with, 5.5 minutes left on timer. This was a super great GB run, which is why I want to do a commentary over it. So let me know in the comments if you guys have any more questions about, what I think about during a dungeon run, any questions with this run specifically, and let me know if you want to see more content like this, if it's helpful. So thank you guys for watching, and good luck on your keys as well.